Hi, I'm here today with Jennifer Weiss-Wolf, who is the author of Periods Gone Public, Taking a Stand for Menstrual Equity. She's Vice President for Development and Women and Democracy Fellow at the Brennan Center for Justice and a regular contributor to Ms. Magazine and many other magazines. We're here today to talk about menstrual equity, and maybe let's just start right there. What is menstrual equity, Jennifer?
Menstrual equity, it's thinking about periods as a political agenda and a policy entry point for addressing issues of gender equity. So at the most sort of micro level, it focuses on what it means to have access to menstrual products and menstrual education and all the ways that would enable somebody to live a fully productive life and not have menstruation get in the way of that. I think it's surprising for people to learn that for many vulnerable populations, periods do get in the way of their ability to participate fully, whether it's in their education or in the workplace or in society writ large. So menstrual equity is at the most, sort of granular level about ensuring that menstruation is not a hindrance for anybody's ability to participate. But more broadly, it's really about thinking through the structures of our society and our lawmaking and our policymaking, and how it's come to be that menstruation is almost completely absent from our lawmaking, and that if there were ways to address menstruation in the policies and rules by which we live, we would find that we were creating a more equitable society.
And I think this is such a powerful topic because here in the United States, especially if you're living in a community of privilege, we almost forget that this is an issue. It's a topic that maybe we've heard discussed in other countries as problems that other struggling economies face, but of course we're facing it in this country as well. So can you talk a little bit about where that comes up in the United States and what legal strategies one can take to address it?
Sure, and that's really true. Even for me, when I first learned of this, I learned of it through a collection drive in my own community for low-income people who used our food pantry, who weren't able to access these products or afford these products when they needed them, and what kind of impact it had on their lives. And it started that exact same thought process for me, where I knew I had read about this as an issue in the global south or in East Africa. It never occurred to me this was happening in my own community. But the more, part of the reason I think lots of us don't know it is because we've all been trained from a young age not to talk about periods, like that it's just not what you do. Whether you think there's, to some people it might be more broadly or grandly stigmatized through religious beliefs or cultural beliefs, but even for those who think periods are just normal and fine and part of their daily life, it's not actually something that we take out of the closets and out of the shadows. So it seems not surprising to discover that for those for whom it's a hindrance, that they wouldn't really want to announce it to the world. So you have this sort of double problem of a problem that exists and then unwillingness to talk about it. So by talking about it and bringing it into the public sphere and getting the media to report on it and making it sort of a more natural and normal part of our discourse, that's kind of half the battle. But then the other half, of course, is thinking about if you're going to make this a policy agenda or infiltrate it into our politics, well, how do you do that? What is the frame to do so? What are the right levers to pull to do so? So in the case of this menstrual equity policy agenda, which is quite vibrant now here in the United States, it's been to focus on, for example, the economics of menstruation, the sales tax, the taxation of these products, how affordable they are and ways to make them more affordable through things like tax credits, to make them freely available for those who are most vulnerable, whether it's low-income students, whether it's people who utilize shelters, whether it's people who are incarcerated. And guess what? This is surprising to hear, but for all of those people, managing menstruation is a challenge. And they've said as much when asked to say so. That is the response.
Yeah, we at Her Justice, we provide menstrual products in our bathrooms for our clients, and they disappear very rapidly, so we know there's a real demand. Can you talk a little bit about some of the successes you've had in New York City specifically, because that's where we were?
Yeah, New York City has actually been sort of the hub of all of this activity. In 2016, New York City became the first jurisdiction in the world to pass a slate of laws that were all focused on this concept of menstrual equity, that access equals participation and engagement. So here in New York, the 3 laws that were passed as part of this package included access to menstrual products in public schools through the Department of Education, access to menstrual products through shelters through the Department of Homeless Services, and access for menstrual products for people who are incarcerated through the Department of Correction. Those laws were introduced in the city council, passed unanimously, signed by the mayor, funded by the city, and have now been in effect for 2 years and are inspiring similar legislation across the country at the city level, at the state level, and even at the federal level.
And I think you've mentioned a little bit before that this topic actually has a tendency to be nonpartisan. That is, we're trying to make progress on women's issues generally, that you've found allies in perhaps unexpected places.
Oh my gosh, it's I'd like to say it's surprising and not surprising at the same time. It's surprising because we live in such a polarized political time that it's hard to imagine that this aspect of women's bodies would ever appeal to anybody who otherwise shows disdain for women's bodies. But on the other hand, there's something so benign and neutral and natural about it when you pull all the layers back, that it becomes almost like a defiance of common sense to not address that. So yes, there's been support on both sides of the aisle for it, including Republican state governors who have signed bills passed by their state legislatures to mandate menstrual products in schools, for example, or to eliminate sales tax on menstrual products. There's been Republican support in Congress for laws that would make menstrual products more affordable through flexible spending account allowances, or fully available through the federal prison system. So yes, bipartisan and almost nonpartisan. Periods somehow transcend all of that, which maybe shouldn't surprise us. At the end of the day, I think we know how powerful they are, and that to me is a really telling aspect of this work, that this is this kind of outlier that's enabled us to reach some sort of vision of progress.
Great. Well, a vision of progress on women's equity issues
We'll
is
take
a
it.
welcome thing these days.
We'll take it in 2018.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and thank you
you.
for writing this book and educating
Thanks.
us all, reminding us all how important our periods are.
They are.